I hunted down two real survivor immunity idols in New England. To find the idols, I had to hike and traverse through the icy cliffs in New Hampshire and venture into a sweltering rainforest in Rhode Island. I traveled over 400 miles by car. I got to meet a survivor player, and I even got to see some wild and endangered animals. My name is Skylar. You're watching Reading into Reality, and I'm here to tell you all about my time at the Survivor 50 Challenge. Of the 50th season of Survivor, their flagship reality show. They're placing an immunity idol at a landmark in each of the 50 states on staggered dates, and there's a set date and time when participants can come to that landmark to hunt for the idol. Most of these idols were only open on one day for just a few hours. Survivor's my favorite show, and I had this free time. This seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Plus, if you find a state's idol, you're entered into a sweepstakes along with all the other idol finders of that state to win a free trip to the Survivor 50 finale in Los Angeles. Needless to say, winning that trip would be a total dream. My home state of New Hampshire posted their clue on January 31st. The clue read, Snoopy's yellow pal can help lead the way for structures fit for kings and queens. Slides and tunnels and more bring you merry, cold to the touch, yet a delight to the eyes. I assumed Snoopy's yellow pal is Woodstock from the Peanuts comics, so I knew I would have to go pretty far up north to the town of North Woodstock, New Hampshire. Um, the structures fit for kings and queens obviously refers to castles, and the cold touch is ice. So I have my answer, which is the ice castles in North Woodstock, New Hampshire. This location choice felt pretty obvious to me. Whenever folks who aren't from New Hampshire are thinking about our state, the ice castles are like the only landmark that comes to mind for whatever reason. I guess the sort of either West Coast or Midwest view of New Hampshire is that nothing is happening here, but it's really, really cold, and it can be pretty sometimes if you go far enough up into the White Mountains. They're not totally wrong with that one, but it made me laugh. The Idol was live on Monday, February 2nd from 4 to 8 p.m. My partner was working that day, so I hopped in my Subaru solo to drive up north, and I got to the castles a little bit before 4. I'm glad I was early because there was already a big line. I had to stand in line for about 45 minutes, but things moved along fast. I struck up conversations with the folks waiting around me. I was trying to find out how far people came from, if they were from out of state, or if they were going to multiple hunts. There was one guy there who had this really awesome blanket just covered in pictures of Jeff Probst's face, and he said he had already been at the Vermont hunt and that he was probably going to go to Maine as well. So it did sound like there were definitely some harder core guys out there, which you kind of needed to be, considering it was about 15 degrees out and getting colder as the sun was setting. So my toes were really freezing themselves off, but this line moved along fast. And once I got to the front, they let us into the actual castles, like the walking paths, in much smaller groups. Probably about 6 people were in my group, the folks I had been chatting to in the line, kind of just about Survivor 50. And you could walk through. There was like these hiking paths. You sort of go through all the caves, and there was even one of the big hills was open that you could slide down in a snow tube. They had a Survivor-style game set up on one of the ice cliffs, one of those games where you pull ropes to balance a ball, maneuver it to the top. It was designed for 2 players to do. And there was also like the sandwich board up with the clue, and I walked around checking out the sites for a little while before I found the clue that led me to the idol itself. They had an area set up where one of the folks working the event could take your photo with the idol. And then you had to locate a QR code, which is where you submitted your photo. And that submission to the QR code is your official entry to the sweepstakes of Survivor 50. When I went, actually was at the front of the line, let into the castles, to when I finished submitting my idol and left, I was there probably about 15, 20 minutes. So yes, I definitely spent more time traveling and waiting in line than I spent actually walking around in the ice castles, but that's sort of what I expected from the experience, especially as a person coming solo. I didn't run across any survivors at New Hampshire, but later I saw on Instagram that Aubrey Rocco was actually there, which is super cool because she's going to be on Survivor 50 itself. As I was waiting in line and going through the experience, I was also chatting up the event workers to try to find out a little bit more about sort of what company they worked for and what their job, just what the day to day of that job looks like, because that's kind of so fun. Like if you're a Survivor fan, to be able to be working at these immunity idol hunts. And the guy at the front of the line was really friendly, and I chatted to him. He told me that he was working for an event company, like an event contracting company. He said he was based out of New York City and that his friend got him this job, and so he came from there. I'm assuming, or what it sounded like from our conversation, was that he's sort of working all the idol hunts around New England, and I did end up seeing him again. So that event contracting company, interestingly enough, they're not CBS Interactive, and they also, no one there really seems like they were affiliated with the Ice Castles itself either. So it is an outside company that CBS is using to just sort of like man the lines and tell people where to park and that kind of thing. Um, I didn't really see any kind of security presence there. And there was not also any cost to get in, though. Like it was free. And probably there was probably about 80 to 100 people waiting in line in New Hampshire, if I had to guess. And so many of the people in line had like their Survivor gear on. I had my buff on. It just felt really awesome to see like a big gathering of fans like that. So since I live in New England and the states are so close together, I wanted to get just at least one more immunity idol. And I thought the clue for Rhode Island sounded particularly intriguing. It read, where families roam to meet the wild, where families roam to meet the wild and paths are shared by grown and child. Near the state's capital, well planned, a Williams name marks park and land. And it had a picture of a lion too when it was up on the Survivor 50 website. Obviously, the state's capital would be Providence, Rhode Island, and when they're talking about a Williams Park, I'm assuming that means the Roger Williams Park Zoo. And that idol was live on Monday, February 9th from 12 to 4 p.m. Because my partner loves animals so much and loves the zoo, we decided to go to that one together. So when they were done with work, we set off together for Providence, which was a few hours for us in the car. And we got to the zoo around 1 p.m. Right out front of the zoo, there was like a sandwich bar with the idol clue. There was also an event worker there who gave us free entry tickets to the zoo, so we didn't have to pay anything to get in. He also gave us some stickers branded with Survivor 50, so thank you to you for that. There was a lot more like of a security presence there. Like there was a security guard right outside the zoo, and when we got closer in and there was the lines and stuff, there was definitely security guards like stationed at points along those lines. So I wonder if that was more of like the zoo staff itself is what they seem to be. Like it seems like there was the workers from the event company, and then there was like the security guards maybe were from the zoo. That first clue that was right out front of the zoo pointed us towards the elephants and giraffes. So we found our way to that exhibit where we got to see those guys. The elephants were like playing with their food, which was super cute. And in that room, we found another sandwich board with another clue. That one pointed us deeper into the zoo towards the rainforest path. And once we got to that path, we realized that, oh, that's where like most of the Survivor fans are. There was a long line of people waiting. I would guess probably like 200 people at least. We were probably waiting in that line at the rainforest for a good hour until we were allowed in small groups into the rainforest exhibit. So as we were waiting in that exhibit to get up front to the idol, we got to look at all the rainforest animals who were in there, which was really a highlight for me. They had a sloth who we saw sleeping. He was like in a cute little basket atop one of the trees. It was sort of like the monkeys could almost cross over our head. They had these golden lion tamarins who are an endangered species of primate. They were like wee baby monkeys, and they're just a beautiful golden color. They had an exhibit of tropical birds over on the other side. There were some snakes who I did not want to go see personally. And then we got up front to the idol, where same thing, there was a worker there who was able to take our photo with it. And then we went around to the side where there was a QR code to submit our entries to the sweepstakes. And once we left the rainforest exhibit, it was in like a big glass building. Once we left that building, we were hit with another surprise, which was a smaller line to meet Eva Erickson, finalist of Survivor 48. She's a total queen. My partner and I loved her when we watched Survivor 48 live, so we decided to wait and say hi to her. She was so gracious, so nice to like say hi to us, and there was a worker there taking photo for us. There's also like a security guard stationed right there, which I thought like you can never be too careful. I thought that was a really nice touch. But my partner and I think we loved watching Eva. We both, especially Autumn, related to her a lot and to her like whole journey. So I just thought that her coming out and being so like involved in the community and standing out in that cold there for so long, like she is obviously like just she's a queen for that. So thank you, honestly, you made our day. After we got our photo with Eva, Otto and I explored a little bit more of the zoo. The hotter weather animals like had been more in their houses, but we went towards the like tundra section where there were actually some like cold weather animals who were really enjoying all the ice and snow that we've been having lately. In particular, we saw these two snow leopards who were cuddled up, which was awesome, and we saw this gigantic bison. Honestly, I thought that this zoo was beautiful and so well maintained, and the animals seemed like they had like really good setups, which is always awesome to see. Getting to these idols was definitely not an easy journey. It took a lot of time and travel, but I think CBS Interactive did an amazing job making this challenge feel worth it. I felt so proud that I was able to touch two immunity idols with my own hands. I also got free admission to two really cool locations, which worked as great promo for them too. I would love to go back, in particular to the Roger Williams Park Zoo in the nicer weather and see it really in the full swing of things. And I also think the ice castles are definitely worth a visit if you ever find yourself up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I'm crossing my fingers that I'll somehow get lucky in one of these sweepstakes and get invited to the finale. Thanks so much for watching my video. You can check out some more of what I've been working on the channel lately, including reviews of the Traders US new season. I'll also be reviewing Stephen Fishbach's novel Escape in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out, subscribe for that. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment. It helps me out so much, and I hope to see you in the next one.